Hello lovely viewers, you are most welcome to our channel Poetry Online. In this video, we shall be discussing the final part of the book The Lion and the Jewel, titled Ninth. It is in this part that wole Soyinka ties up all loose ends and brings our discussion to an end. By the end of this video, you should be able to 1. Understand Barunka more fully. 2. Appreciate the clever exchanges between Sidi and Barunka. 3. Come to a fuller understanding of Soyinka's message. Kindly subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get updates on all our new videos. Once again, let us assure you of a very interesting discussion. Get ready for this lesson. The first thing the readers notices when Sidi and Barunka begins to exchange words is that despite the ballet's age, the two of them are more evenly matched than Sidi and Lakunle, who are both young. The verbal contest between them is more subtle and indeed more witty and intelligent. They are able to get at each other without seeming to, until they finally arrive at a point where the younger one, Sidi, is compelled to appreciate the wisdom of the older one, Barunka. This is something Sidi does not appreciate until she meets him. But the first thing we learn about Barunka when Sidi enters his palace is that he is in fact learning to move with the times. His servants have formed a union, the Palace Workers' Union, and once a week they take a day off. Sidi rather impudently asks if it is a day off for Barunka's wives too. She wants to jump to the conclusion that Barunka's wives have abandoned their position in the house because he is somehow incapable of satisfying them. She is disappointed to learn that Barunka's favorite, Eliatu's offense, has nothing to do with Barunka's impotence. Sidi was hoping Eliatu's offense had a sexual origin. Barunka, who is at this point engaged in a wrestling match, a symbol of no doubt of his potency or capability, both as a man and as a representative of tradition. He deliberately gives all his attention to the contest he is engaged in, as though the young lady Sidi, who has entered his room, is of no interest to him whatsoever. Sidi's expedition, which she undertakes for the purpose of taunting Barunka, gets off to a weak start when Barunka pretends that he is unaware of her refusal of his marriage proposal and of his invitation of her to have supper with him since Sadiku has brought no reply. The young woman is especially hurt that Barunka calls her an unwanted stranger and belittles her even further when he says, "Is a man's bedroom to be made naked to any flea that chances to wander through?" Barunka clearly wins the initial onslaught, but Sidi is determined to taunt him about his alleged impotence, so she renews the attack. Surely, she argues that Barunka's current favorite would not have abandoned her post unless she was in some way dissatisfied with her husband. And here, she is suggesting that the old chief is unable to satisfy his wives. But again, Barunka easily parries the impudent assault. He does not concern himself with the petty purpose of his wives. Sidi then decides to take side with Barunka's opponents in the wrestling exercise in which the chief is engaged. But what is interesting is that she gives a reason for her choice in a proverb. If a tortoise cannot tumble, it does not mean that he can stand. To which Barunka responds also with a proverb. When the child is full of riddles, the mother has one pot the less. Sidi continues the verbal battle with an offensive description of a hypothetical suitor, even though it is obvious to Barunka that he is the one being described. For instance, when asked if the presumptuous suitor is rich, she responds that rumor has it so. If repulsive, she responds that he is old and this makes Barunka wins. Again, if the man is miserly, Sidi responds that there is a rumor that he has developed a taste for ground corn and pepper because he is too mean to spend money on stuff. This allegation angers Baronka that he protests vigorously, forgetting that Sidi is supposedly only discussing a hypothetical suitor. With a sudden burst of energy, he leaves his opponent in the wrestling match over his shoulder, a clear symbolic indication of how Sidi's presence serves to boost his power. Too late to recollect himself, he claims to have been upset on behalf of the supposed suitor because he himself has been a victim of such kind of malicious gossip. The question and answer session gets really interesting when she is asked if the supposed suitor has been a productive parent. Her answer to this question is once upon a time. Pressed to explain the cryptic answer and says again, alluding to Baronka's alleged impotence, that he is so tired with the day's affair that at night he turns his buttocks to his wives. When Baronka suggests that the suitor or husband uses his strength mindfully of years to come, that is, the suitor uses his energy sparsely and wisely, Sidi in a clever pun insists that the husband's first duty is to husband his wives, that is, to satisfy his wife sexually, and again she suggests that Baronka has lost her sexual power. In the exchange between Baronka and Sidi, she shows a more mature and deeper aspect of her character, not to mention a more nimble intelligence than has been evident in her squabbles with Lakunle. It is as if Lakunle is not capable of bringing out the best in Sidi, while in the verbal feud with Baronka, Sidi is able to match the traditional and proverbial language of the old man. An example is found in this exchange when Baronka, complaining of immodesty of modern African women, "Now my Sidi, you have not caught this new and strange disease, I hope." Sidi replied by saying, "The trending of my smock, does Baronka not know the marking of the village loom?" Baronka replies, "But will Sidi, the pride of mothers, will she always wear it?" Again, Sidi replies with, "Will Sidi, the proud daughter of Baronka, will she step out naked?" What is fascinating about Sidi's response is the way she picks up on Baronka's own words and images and bend them to her advantage. Thus, more than ever before, she emerges as someone who is deeply versed with the tradition of her people, a girl who has been properly brought up to speak and behave in accordance to custom. At the end of this exchange, Baronka, who has regarded her as just another silly modern girl, is obliged to say, "To think that I once thought Sidi is the eye's delight, but she is vain, and her head is feather light and always giddy with the trivial thoughts, and now I find her deep and wise beyond her years." And it is at this point that Baronka begins to reveal to her and to the audience his real position in the clash of modern versus traditional. What we discover here is that though Baronka is a traditionalist, he is not dead set against progress as Lakunle has led us to believe. Indeed, he makes it clear to the surprise of Sidi and accidentally of the wrestler that he is for progress provided certain precautions are taken. He leads Sidi to a machine for making stamp which he has caused a village blacksmith to manufacture and which he has designed himself. He will have imported a device for his village, but he prefers one which comes from the village itself. In his view, progress must be built on tradition. It must be an organic development of what there already is, not something forced upon the village as Lakunle seeks to do. Baronka says, "The word, dear child, of the palace blacksmith, built in full secrecy, all is not well with it. But I will find a cause, and then Ilunjili will boast of its own tags on paper, made with stamp like this. For long I dreamt it, and there it stands, child of my thought." Next, he reveals to the wonder-struck young woman that the stamp to be printed by the machine will bear a picture of Sidi's face rather than the impersonal images which are found on other stamps. In other words, he seeks a more human kind of progress but more importantly, Sidi's face and Barunka's mind, which invents the machine, thus combine to symbolize the way of the future, a combination of the young and the old, or the new and the old. He complains that progress tends to make everything look the same. Modern products, houses, cars, dresses tend to have no individuality because they are mass-produced. It is this lack of individuality which he detests and not progress itself. Barunka says, "I do not hate progress, only its nature, which makes all roofs and faces look the same. And the wish of one old man is that here and there, among the bridges and Madras roads, below the humming birds which smoke the face of Sango Dispender, of the snake-tongued lightning, and the reckless broom, that will be weirded in the years to come. We must leave virgin plots of lives, reach decay, and the tongue of vapor, rising from forgotten heaps and compost, lying undisturbed." To counteract the boring sameness of modernity, Barunka proposes that some items from the past should be preserved to add dignity and variety to the awful sameness which progress might otherwise bring. It is worth noting that the picture of the future that Barunka paints is not a glorious one. Yes, there will be aeroplanes and easy road access from one place to another, but he described the road as Medros, referring to motor accidents which have always plagued Nigeria and are now a menace in Ghana and other African countries and the world at large. He also talks about the mass adoption of the Western culture that characterizes Africans' notion of progress. It is against this wholesale adoption of the Western culture that Barunka sounds a caution. It is to be noticed that, as Barunka reveals his vision of progress, he also sexually seduces Sidi. Interestingly, as the old man describes his vision of the future, the young woman observes quite rightly that he speaks almost like the school teacher, except that his words fly on a different path. And Barunka agrees by saying, "The proof of wisdom is the wish to learn even from children, and the haste of youth must learn its temper from the glows of ancient leather, from a strength ninth close along the grain. The school teacher and I must learn one from the other. Is this not right?" And this really is Barunka's message. The old must adapt and take the new, and similarly, the young must learn to benefit from the experience of the old. The new must be directed by tradition. Lakunle's weakness is that he possesses no tradition on which to build a new one. His modernity is based on nothing. He is bound to lack strength or vigor, or to use the metaphor of the play, he is bound to lack potency. And he also, in the final act of the play, in which Sidi set out to town the supposedly impotent old man, the rest of the play is designed to restore the comic structure. Lakunle, with characteristic melodrama, expresses anxiety and fear about what Barunka has done to Sidi, who has gone all night, while Sadiku calmly enjoys his antiques. The drummers and dancers who come on at this point merely serves to increase the dramatic irony of the moment. The dancers celebrate the defeat of Barunka with Sadiku as the chief celebrant, and Lakunle enjoys the performance, but the audience know that the ballet of Ilinjili is not impotent and has in fact succeeded in annexing the jewel. When Sidi finally emerges on stage, Lakunle says things that are funny to the audience. Lakunle says, "But Sidi, did you escape? Tell me the worst, I'll take it like a man. Is it the fright which affects you so, or did he?" For a brief moment, Lakunle appears noble when he offers to marry Sidi, knowing that she has been deflowered by Barunka. Lakunle says, "Man takes the fallen woman by the hand, and ever after they live happily." Moreover, I will admit, it solves the problem of a bride price too. But Lakunle spoils the moment. He apparently has an ulterior motive for offering to marry Sidi. He offers to marry Sidi because now that she is no longer a virgin, she has no reason to ask for a bride price from him. As it turns out that Sidi does not want him anyway, not after being with the old man, the Lion of Ilunjili. And so, the play ends with the prospect of a wedding between Sidi and Barunka, with the entire village in a festive celebration, and with Lakunle happily pursuing another young girl. This is the typical ending of a comedy. In this section, we have learned the following. Sidi is indeed a properly brought up African girl who knows her culture, and this is why she is the heroine of the play. Barunka's vision of the future is superior to that of Lakunle's vision of the future. Much of the comedy depends on the clever conversation between Sidi and Barunka.